Welcome everyone, Noku here, and I've prepared a tier list for you all. This will be all the passive and active skills that were available in the beta of Dragon Ball The Breakers. There's a few passives that are using the same icons, so I've been recoloring some of them to distinguish them from one another. And as always with any kind of tier list, this is mostly my opinion. There's also a couple of skills that I haven't even tried, I think only 2 or 3, and a couple more that I definitely should have been using more. But I'll be giving you my impression of the skills that were available. Also, there's definitely going to be some changes made to the tier list later on, obviously, as the game progresses and they make buffs and nerfs. There's going to be more ability added in the main game, so this won't be relevant past a certain point, but this will be a fun experiment for you all. Alright, so first on our list is Power Charger. So you buy this in the shop. What it does is that until you reach level 1 as a survivor, you will be gaining power energy automatically. I'm gonna put this into bad because most of the time you find enough cubes to get yourself to level 1 pretty quick. It's definitely something you'd be glad to have when you get unlucky at the beginning of the game, or if the raider finds you early and you just have to spend some time running away, then definitely that is not a useless perk, but most of the time you won't get much use out of it, and once you reach level 1 it becomes a useless perk, so gonna have to put this passive into bad. Next up, Barrier Auto Recovery. This is something I've been using pretty much all the time, especially in the later betas. This is a Piccolo perk, a passive skill. I'm gonna put this into great because using your inventory slot to be carrying cooldown drink is what you want to do most of the time, so the fact that you don't have to pick up barriers and that you can rely on this skill to get your shield back is extremely useful. So yeah, I'm gonna grade this at great. This skill is On Guard. On Guard is one of those that I've barely tried. I think I've equipped it once during the beta to see how it goes. What it does is that the heartbeat range of the raider can be heard from further away for you. Gonna have to put this into bad as well, because I don't think there's a lot of situation where you're hearing the heartbeat a bit faster, a bit more in advance, I mean, would really be like saving your bacon or anything. So I don't know, I would need to use this more to see if it comes in clutch more often than I think, but my impression of it is that it's just not a good perk. You'd be much better off using that slot for something that is reliably helpful. This is a key detection. Key detection, as far as I understand it, I've never actually used it, but what it does is that whenever the raider is pinged, when somebody has like a visual on the raider, like there's an icon and everybody knows where the raider is, for you, this icon would stay longer on screen. But again, I don't think using perks that allows you to just sneak around the raider are all that much useful. Like, you don't necessarily want to avoid him, it's much better if he actually sees you but you manage to use an escape method to get away, making him waste his time. So I will have to rate this to bad as well. Next up is the Emergency Transformation skill. This is a skill that you have unlocked right at the beginning, and that is equipped automatically. And I'm glad it is, because it definitely helps the newbies, like that just don't know the controls or anything, like to just not immediately get down by the raider. So I'm actually glad it's in the game, but I will have to rate it to trash, because once you get used to the game and that you know that you can just press RB to transform, I don't see why you would ever waste a slot on this. So its actual usefulness will be rated to the trash tier. The vehicle jump boost. This is definitely something that is fun to use. The only time where I was actually happy to have this perk was if I had Bulma's bike and I fell into one of the like water ponds, because a lot of these either have only one spot or have no spot where you can jump off if you don't have any jump boost. So if you just really love using Bulma's Bike, definitely this is a good perk for you, but I'll have to rate this into average because I don't think that jumping higher with the Bulma's Bike or just any vehicle is all that useful, because most of the time it's either still going to be too high even with the jump boost, or it's low enough that you don't need the jump boost. So yeah, only average. However, the speed boost I'm gonna rate to great. I've been using this a lot with Bulma's Bike. It's awesome. It helps with the other vehicles. It can help with other vehicle perks like the Nimbus. So the extra, I believe it's 35% at the maximum. The extra burst of speed is definitely noticeable. So this will be rated as great. Alright, next up is the Emergency Escape. This is another skill you buy in the shop, and what it does is that if you're inside a zone that is getting destroyed, like instead of dying, if you stay inside the zone, you will be teleported out. This could come in clutch, like maybe as the meta advances. I feel that just a survivor rushing will be the best strategy, rushing the keys to force the raider to be still low level and have to defend the time machine. So this could come in clutch to be able to put a key, like to stay put and put a key whenever a raider is destroying it. Could also help you just get an extra boost of a valuable inside a zone. But overall, I believe I'll still rate this too bad, because most of the time it's just a perk that you won't get any use of during a game. It's not that hard to avoid the zone destructions. Obviously, sometimes you get screwed over for various reasons, but still, I'll have to rate this too bad. Next up, dirt movement speed. This is something I was actually using a lot in the first beta that I played, but I since switched it off, especially in the last one. I haven't really noticed a whole lot of difference, honestly. Like on the floor, like I feel the raiders were still able to shoot me down. Like it's good to loot a bit faster. So I still think it's a good perk, but having taken it off during the last beta, I haven't really noticed it like dragging me back or anything. So good or average? Kind of vacillating here. I mean, we can still change the rating as we go. Like, I'll probably move some up or down at some point, so I guess I'll leave this to average. Alright, the slide. This is an ability that you get from the Trunks ticket that they were giving to everyone in the last beta. What it does is it gives you the ability to press R3 to trigger a slide, and this slide, while it's usually short, if you're on slope terrain, you'll actually keep sliding all the way down, gaining more speed. And unfortunately, I'm gonna have to rate this too bad too. It's definitely cool because it's just, there's no cooldown on it or anything. Since it's a passive, you just gain the ability to slide down hills. But again, you need a hill to slide down from. Like maybe if the raider's behind you and there's a hill that goes away from him, you're gonna be happy to have it. You're gonna get a bit more speed in areas that you're looting. If there's some slope terrain, it can help you out. But in my opinion, this is just a worse floating device. Talking about floating device, this I'm actually gonna rate to great. I've been using this all the time. This is awesome. This allows you to float relatively quickly in between, like whenever you jump off like in the air. So this will allow you to loot a lot more efficiently. It can even be slightly helpful to avoid the raider a little bit, especially if you want to cancel the landing lag, because when your character lands from a height, there's this long landing animation that makes you extremely vulnerable to the raider. So having this perk equipped will allow you to cancel that. So just for that, it deserves to be rated great. We're almost done with the passives here. There's only one single passive left, and it is the VIP Special. This is a Yamcha perk. What it does is that it reduces the cost of the vending machines up to a maximum of 35% if you upgrade it to the maximum. So this is gonna be our first and only Z passive. This is awesome because the cooldown drinks are the best items in the game. This is definitely the game-winning items at the end, especially if you don't have a level 4 up. It can also help you just get your level 3 faster by buying cubes more easily from the cubes machine. It's just a great perk. I don't see why you wouldn't want to use this. This is pretty much a required perk. Now let's move on to the active ability. Unlike the passive, those need to be activated to trigger their effect. And starting off with the grappling hook. Grappling hook you start off with, I believe it's automatically equipped. And you should leave it that way because I'm actually gonna put this into the Z tier as well. Because the grappling hook, I believe it is the only item that can reliably get you out of a situation where the raider finishes you off, takes you out of a transformation with a melee combo, because at that point he'll also damage you, so you're already one hit away from dying, and you're extremely vulnerable because you're just kind of floating in the air after the hit, after the raider has beaten you up. So the grappling hook actually comes out pretty much instantly, and you get a lot of speed, like grappling to your target. So this will save your life over and over. You can also use it very effectively to just traverse the terrain. It's awesome, like to reach the power key spot after somebody finds the key and you're in the area, quickly grapple to it. Yeah, never take this off. It's an awesome item. Next up, camouflage. This is an oolong perk. It allows you to transform into a random object that is present on the map, with the exception of this Mr. Satan statue, of course. But that's kind of a cool Easter egg. But yeah, this is awesome. This is definitely good. It's also just very fun to use. It's definitely better against Frieza than Cell, because if Cell is already activated as Ki Sense, it'll still sense you in the pot if you transform into it at that point. But if you're in a situation where you know Cell might have activated his Ki Sense, you can turn into that before, and then he won't be able to sense you. It also greatly reduces the lock-on range, so it's just a good perk that will allow you to sneak up on the raider and sneak away from him most of the time. So yeah, I'm gonna put this into good. Like, I just don't think it's all that great because there's still a lot of situations where it won't really be helpful in any way, especially if you're holding a Dragon Ball and the raider as a radar. Like, it'll definitely find you anyway, but still, it's definitely gonna come in clutch pretty often, so good it is. Alright, Change Missile. Change Missile is the other oolong perk. And what it does is that you immediately transform into a missile and start to speed away in the direction that you're looking. It's highly controllable. I haven't tried this a lot. I did try it a couple of games towards the end. I feel like I would need to test it more to really know how good it is to get away from the raider, but I think it's a pretty good perk because the transformation's pretty instant and you start to move away compared to a lot of skills that have just a startup time where you're completely vulnerable. So I'm gonna rate this to good. I feel like if you don't have any other better escape perks, like this is something you can rely upon to save your bacon a couple of times. Next, the Nimbus, the Flying Nimbus. Sadly, as much as I love the Nimbus, I mean, I love that it's in the game. I'm glad they added it. It does all the original like sound effect. It's just fun to go search for the Dragon Ball, left riding on your Nimbus. But overall, it is a bad perk. The startup time is way too long. It is very slow, even with the vehicle speed boost. The raider can shoot you down extremely easily, and also it attracts a lot of attention. It's very visible, so it's definitely one of the it's not an escape method from the raider. It's really just a traversal item. There with the long startup type and everything, like I don't want them to remove Nimbus, but it's just not good. Next on the list is the hovering device, the little trampoline thing. This is something that is also equipped by default as you start off with. And while it's not bad, it's just not good either, so it will go into average. It has a short cooldown time, so it's pretty useful to use when you want to traverse the map, like get to more loot faster. But to get away from the Raider, like, it just makes you bounce into a very predictable and slow arc in the air, so you're extremely vulnerable. It's really not something you want to use to get away from the Raider unless you're using it in a combo with like grappling hook or something. Definitely jumping on the trampoline and then grappling back down to a place with cover can save you, that's for sure. But all in all, I just don't think floating device is all that great, so average it is. Now, the Saiyan Pod. This is active skill that you got if you played Beta 2 and 3. They were giving it to everyone with the tickets. And this will go into the Z tier. It's probably the most versatile item in the game. You can use it to reliably get away from the Raider. You can use it to just go from one end of the map to go save someone, or just go set a power key. You can use it to stun the Raider, because when it falls back down, like when you call it down and when you actually crash down, it can both stun the Raider. So this is definitely something I've used tons of times in many situations. It's just has too many users, despite the very long cooldown time for it. I just feel that if you got this, you gotta be equipping it. Like, there's just no excuse for not using Saiyan Pod. It saved so many games. Like, if you're in a situation where the Raider is destroying the time machine and nobody else going for it, and you're not close to the middle, Saiyan Pod is the only thing that will allow you to save the game by just going straight into the middle, like crashing into him, like interrupting his machine braking. Then you can transform and save everyone. So yeah, Saiyan Pod, I'm very confident about putting it into the Z tier. Kaioken Assault. This is something I was using all the time in Beta 2 and 3, but I've actually taken it off and I don't regret doing so. It's still good, don't get me wrong. Like, this can be used as both an escape method from the Raider or a way to stun him, like for people to land some combo or just interrupt him breaking the time machine. So the versatility of it definitely makes it a pretty good active skill. But right now there's a bug where sometimes your character will just go backward or just not at all in the direction you're facing, which gets a lot of people killed into the zones. I'm gonna rate this to good. Wall of Defense. This isn't something I've actually used, I'll admit, but going by the description, it's just something that you use if the Raider is using a special attack on somebody else other than you and you're relatively close, but you still take some damage, but less, I think. I haven't actually tried this perk, but I'll just put it into trash. I just don't see how useful this could be. Like, there's just tons of better option if you want to be like helpful to an ally that is fighting the Raider. So this will go into trash. The Scouting Device. This is actually something else that I haven't used at all. I didn't even buy it in the shop. What it does is you kind of send a little drone, and if the Raider is in the area, like, the drone will detect him. But again, I just don't think Raider detection perk are really worth it compared to skill that would just let you straight up escape or delay the Raider. So I'll just put this into trash even though I haven't tried it. Obviously some people might disagree, and obviously if you disagree with any of my rating, feel free to comment down below and explain to me why you think a certain perk is better or worse than I've rated it. I just don't see how useful that could be, so it's going into trash. Smoke Bomb. Smoke Bomb. This is something you start off with. I believe it's equipped automatically as well. What it does is it allows you to prevent the Raider from locking onto you for a short period of time. Whenever I've seen this be used when I was a Raider, I've noticed that it doesn't last very long. And yeah, definitely preventing a lock-on is not bad at all. It can definitely save you a lot of time, but there's time where it could screw you over, especially if you call your Saiyan Pod and you trigger the Smoke Bomb so you don't get targeted. But the problem with that is that if the Raider is not forced to target you, then he can easily just target the spot where the Saiyan Pod will fall down and destroy it as soon as it comes down. So it's still gonna save you, I'm sure. I don't think it's bad, but I'll just gonna rate this to average. The Trap Device. I've actually used this a little bit. I don't think it's all that bad, but it's also pretty easy for Raider to just either punch through it or send like Zarbon or Dodoria to trigger it. I've just seen too many times where it just didn't work at all. There's a lot of times where like somebody's been trying to use this against me as a Raider, and I think it only worked once when I was already close by. I would have to try this more, but I will be putting this to average. I kind of wanted to put it into bad, but one thing I noticed with it is that it has a short cooldown. It doesn't actually go away. Like if you put one, wait for your cooldown to expire, and then put another one, like the first one doesn't disappear. I think you can like stack quite a couple and trap an area real good. So I'll put this to average. It could even go higher up than that. If I tried it more, maybe I'd like it more, but average it is. Alright. Fake Debt. This is a Yamcha skill. I've used it a couple of times, and in my opinion, it's just really bad. I don't see why you would ever use this compared to the other stunning skills that are in the game. It doesn't really stun, honestly. It just knocks back the Raider just a tiny bit. I guess it's not completely useless, but there's just much better options out there. Perhaps the Fake Debt can confuse a Raider, but and again, why would you, if you want to use it in that way, you would just use Camouflage instead. So I'm gonna put this into trash. It's just not good. Solar Flare, aka Taioken. I've used it quite a lot in the second beta, but it's very unreliable in my opinion. When you do land one, it feels great. Classic Dragon Ball move, obviously. It's just not reliable. There's so many times where I feel it should have hit and it doesn't. Perhaps once I fully understand the rules of what can hit what and what situation, I would revisit my rating on this. But out of all the stunning skill, well, all the actual stunning skill in the game, I would feel Solar Flare is just the less reliable of the bunch. But it's still a pretty good perk that will save you. Like if you call your Saiyan Pod and you manage to blind the Raider, you get a free escape out of that. So I'm gonna put it to average. And then the Krillin shoe, the stinky shoe. I love using this. It just looks funny when you land a Raider and he's just holding his nose. But there's still a lot of situation where it's not gonna land because it's actually a projectile. You send it immediately, so if the Raider just tries to go for a melee combo and you use this, that's a perfect counter to that. But if the Raider is not right next to you and he moves in any direction other than towards you, the shoe will not hit because it's a very small projectile that doesn't go all that fast. Like it's not slow, but yeah, if there's some distance, like and he just moves a little bit, that shoe is missing. So despite that, I'm still gonna rate it to good because it came in clutch quite a couple of times and it's just funny. So it gains extra points for that, that's for sure. We're running out of skills to rate here, only 2 more. What is gonna be the rating for these 2 skills? Well, I think I'm gonna surprise a couple people and rate Charming Pose to great. I started using this more towards the very end of the last beta, and I don't regret that I've started to do so, because in my opinion, it is the most reliable of all the charming skills. It has a longer cooldown, so that's a disadvantage for sure, but basically you kind of trigger a little charming pose. This lasts a couple seconds, so even if the Raider, like if you can't hit the Raider immediately with it when you trigger it, if he moves towards you while it's still active, he's gonna get caught in it and gonna be stunned, and it allows you to just get away from him. I've managed to use this in a combo with Bulma's bike a lot, because if you hide yourself in a place where you have good cover, forcing the Raider to really come close to you to be able to get a hit on you, you can pretty much land this consistently. It saved me many times, and it's just funny to send the Raider to Orny Jail, because I think that's how I'm gonna start to call it, is just get caught in the charming pose, like you go to Orny Jail. It's just an hilarious skill, very useful, so yeah, it's going into great. Finally, the very last active skill on our list, Bulma's bike. And Bulma's bike is going straight into the Z tier. Bulma's bike is my favorite active in the game. It's awesome to use, it goes super fast, it only runs out if you actually get off the bike, which you need to do if you want to pick up some items. You cannot get right back onto it, but the cooldown isn't that bad for how good it is, especially. It's perfect to get away from the raider, perfect to go somewhere that you want to go on your map, to go help some teammates, and it's a perfect item to use to get away right after managing to land the stunning skill on the raider. Stun the raider, take your bike out, zoom out of there. And you can combo this with the speed boost to make it even, like, you combine it with the speed boost and it becomes, and if you want to ride like the wind, then you definitely put the speed boost along with it, then you'll reach speeds that you thought would never be possible. At least the raider is gonna be a hell of a lot surprised if you've never seen somebody zoom past him that fast. I've even had a lot of fun just messing around with some level 1 cells, like before he actually gains his ki blast and everything, when he's just a little bug crawling around. Like, I've been having fun just zooming past him, like trying to bait him into going after me, because you just go way faster than the bug. Like, there's no way the bug can catch you. So yeah, this is my favorite active skill in the game. I think everybody should put it on if they have it. And there it is, folks. This is my active and passive skill beta tier list for Dragon Ball The Breakers. Feel free to comment down below if you disagree with any of my ratings. If you think I've overlooked a way that a skill can be used, make sure to explain it in great detail. I'll probably answer you if you're giving me good information. And obviously this is gonna change once the game comes out. There's gonna be more skills, there's gonna be some buffs and nerfs. I do plan to prepare a more in-depth guide that will explain all the available skills in the game and what they do, how to get them, and how good they are. This is just a fun little experiment here, see how these kinds of videos are gonna do. If you like seeing tier lists or just this type of content in general, make sure to let me know. And I will see you all in the next video.